Hello, everyone, and welcome. You would have expected me to continue by saying for the weekly horoscope, etc., but unfortunately, that's not gonna happen. And the reason for that is collectively, but also all of us individually as well, because this is basically the essence of Aquarius. The very same thing, parallel but simultaneously, happens collectively and individually as well. And the two expressions can be, if you wish, totally dichotomous and it's still okay. But we reached, let's say, a threshold when entertainment is pure poison. When entertainment of any kind is beyond the realm of Scorpio and anything it could produce. So if I would continue my stories, weekly stories, I would betray myself. I would betray God. I would betray truth. I would betray my own heart because I'm a mystic. And when the divine calls upon us to support its heart, well, then we can't say fairy tales publicly, can we? But all of this is gonna also be tied in to what I'm gonna present in the following, respectively, the upcoming equinox, Aries equinox, which is very, very important. It's important every single year, don't get me wrong. And it was important the past few years as well, and each Aries equinox in the past years was unique, distinctive, important, a catalyst, a promoter in its own unique, special way. But this one is where it's not gonna be linear. This one is where chaos floods over. However, it is our job to make that chaos be a creational heaven in our own unique way. What do I mean creational heaven? When fertility, when the two cells meet, that's pure chaos. Nature makes sure that that chaos always, when the conditions can be met, brings new life, and that's a new universe. There and then, Mother Nature, created a new universe, regardless if that life form or whatever is a human being, an animal, a cell, or it's a new universe. And this is exactly what is gonna be unfolding. However, I can't sugarcoat it because I have to admit that the blueprint of it, the big picture, well, it has to be positive because creation and all of that. However, the modus operandi, well, I can't sugarcoat it because I would be a liar. I would do my public a disservice because at the end of the day, we can't use astrology to rape Mother Earth, if you know what I mean, Uranus, and every creational myth. If you look at it deeply, and with the eyes of your soul, you see the rape in it. You see the rape in it. So, this is the moment when we shouldn't rape with knowledge, with wisdom. We rape with the mind. Everything in our lives that we do as human beings in this modern context is pure rape. We rape each other. We rape the collective. We rape Mother Earth. We rape animals. Of course, not bodily and not with our sexual energies, with our perversion of the mind that wants to dissect and dissect and dissect and dissect and control and control and control. So nothing is left for nature. Like, if astrology has to say something, well, the truth in it is that the earth, well, it's more real on a soul level than us. The soul of the earth, the planet, the earthly plane, right, and even in a psycho-emotional perspective, it is infinitely more evolved than the sky and everything in the sky. Isn't that how the Creator is above the stars? Isn't that where the stars are just archons, constructs? The earth is real. The earth is living. The earth is a cradle. The earth is a womb. The earth should be a beautiful, peaceful kindergarten where everyone has their own 5 minutes with that Lego game or whatever. But we turned it into something so horrific, such nightmarish, that the stars are looking away in shame and horror. And so this is why we need to change this. We need to change this. And one of the ways that we change it is that we stop consuming entertainment. May that be movies, may that be any type of art which is just a drug. Why? Because the truth, not usually, so this would not be valid at any other moment. Maybe pre-200 years, maybe, but you get what I mean. However, right now, it is very valid. The only truth, and ask any real astrologer, an erratic Neptune and Aries, they will have to say the same thing because they know the same thing as I do. Entertainment, escaping, or making something else translate what life, faith, our own psyche, our own story means to us, that's enslavement that cannot be undone. So right now, we need to end that by not eating it, by not swallowing it. The pills. Turn off the TV, the phone, the internet. When you have a big philosophical question, when your faith is boiling and you won't find the answer on the internet. Not on my channel, not on everyone's channel, not any astrologer, no one right now. Only one's heart and soul. But for that to start speaking, the internet or anything, our best friend, our teacher, our source of inspiration, anything needs to be silent. If anything, look at your dog, cat, whatever pet you have. Right now, that being is infinitely more intelligent than you and me and anyone put together. So this is why we need to wake up in a realistic sense, because sugarcoating or the classical two timelines. One, we need to place our energy into our hope, our love. Absolutely, but not like this. Because the way we're doing it is the deception itself. No. We're one. You can't. This is where you can't split your body up into parts and think that it's gonna independently live. Neither can you, laugh at an illness of yours, which is not gonna be cured in a classical sense. You will need to do the right thing. If you have allergies, well, the right thing is stop eating that. And that's the immediate thing that you can do. So this is where we need to really give ourselves unto our soul. What does that mean? Well, okay, let me rephrase this before it leaves my mouth, because we're under Mercury retrograde, so I could offend big time. if there is such a thing as a sentient, living, intelligent, loving God, well, the primary source of it is how should I say? Is our awareness, our life, not the mind. The mind is a tool. You're not your computer, are you? You love it and it helps you, but are you it? Some people are it, social media and stuff. Okay, but we're wiser than that, right? Why am I so against social media? Well, especially right now. I'm not saying about previous. Right now, it is replacing the divine within us. It is replacing our soul essence, our anima. And if you think if you think I'm crazy, sit down with yourself and just look at social media from a very realistic, pretend that you don't live for a second in this ultra modern society. You will be horrified that it's not just a lie, it is replacing the human spirit. It really. Okay, so let's begin the Aries equinox. The reason why this needed to be said, well, let us look at the screen. It's so out there. On one hand, an erratic Neptune, but an erratic Neptune is going to return there in the following months. First, it will enter Aries, go retrograde, and retrograde back into Pisces, and that's its final touch. However, right now, that's not important because it's moving into Aries, preparing to leave the aneretic degree, the 29 degree, which is elimination. The way we have to understand, besides the fantasy part, the modern mysticism of the aneretic movement, is when we go to the toilet. It's always, or sweat, or anything, elimination. And usually what we eliminate can be two things. Something that we processed and our body doesn't need it anymore, but nature is pure, that's why it created us. Or we produce something like milk and that's profoundly nurturing. That's a source, a fount of life there and then. Isn't that fantastic? And this goes specially for a listener of mine, Jackie. Breast milk is infinite, like it's a miracle, and no one appreciates it. It's superior beyond anything the mind with chemistry can produce. There it is. And no one, as a species, we're not interested. It's primitive. It's even disgusting. Well, that says a lot about us. That says a lot about what Neptune has to wake us up to. Because Neptune entering Aries is not a nice energy. Aries, the first breath, Neptune, the illusion. But Neptune in Aries is the earth, when the spirit entered the earthly plane. If it finds something on the earthly plane that goes against the creator's own spirit, it will start drowning, debilitating, sending us into collective psychosis like it has always done over the course of history. There were so very many collective crazes. Some were only documented in Europe because of obvious reasons, but of course we cannot trust recorded history, but you get what I ask your great-grandparents if you're lucky enough. They know these things. They didn't need astrology. Why would one need astrology if they're a farmer? or if they've worked the earth all their lives, or if they have 10 children. They're superior to Nostradamus. The Earth Mother is the best astrologer in existence because she has to be the one who accepts if the planet symbolism even is allowed to exist in an earthly form. When it is not allowed to exist in an earthly form, it sends it into our fantasy. And that's Hollywood and anything like that. And you see how that is not a nice place. Even the nice is not nice. Everything is a gross lie that is meant, as I have to reiterate this, it is replacing, making us replace our anima. Go back a few 60, 80, 100 years. Stories, the campfire, grandma, grandpa, children had to spend sacred time with their elders because that's where the fantasy came from. And they couldn't ask their parents directly because the parents knew themselves. I'm too young. I don't have the experience of my mom, dad, or my very own grandparent. So, of course, they send the children to the real deal. If a community was blessed with a very renowned mystic medicine woman, we'll call it whatever, of course, that was a big plus. But they weren't really needed because Mother Nature put the information, what to do, how to navigate astrology without even looking at the sky. Genetics, Aries. Aries is genetics, what we inherited. And Neptune is reminding us of this because it will start dissolving the lie. However, Neptune is not necessarily a very cheerful guy in the sense that it will equally or even more support the fantasy, the delusion, the fanaticism, because Aries is the sign of the warrior, fire. What does Neptune is the ocean? That means steam, geyser. Sometimes steam boils everything. You know what? It's not always a nice energy. But Neptune's Neptune. The sun in the sign in 0 degrees of Aries, that's the most important, most crucial degree of all of the zodiac. That's the alpha. That's how, I don't even know how to express this in a more clear way. That's the type of alpha which we read in the deepest philosophies. Sun illuminates this. But all of this equinox is preparing us for the upcoming partial solar eclipse in Aries, when Mercury takes the place of the sun, retrograding back to that 0 degrees of Aries. So it's gonna be a massive awakening, but not through internet and news, and that is gonna be ongoing, of course. Our instinct, our real, the pineal gland, it opens, not through any kind of breathworks and yoga mats on its own. Because Mother Nature says it's time because I'm in danger. I mean, she's not in danger, really. Her feelings are in danger, Why do we allow people who never really knew the divine in a real sense to tell us that anything divine in nature doesn't have emotions just like us? Oh, certain constructs, what they call angels in certain culture, those are constructs, of course. They are not susceptible to emotion as per se. But that which lives in the earthly plane or in the borders along with us has. The elemental beings, their emotions are totally different than ours. They will never allow it to, how should I say, have an impact. But that doesn't mean that they don't feel. But then other beings like us who are heavily emotional entities, we're water beings, right? Well, we feel. Well, we really, really, really feel. So this is basically what the Aries equinox is going to be about. Time to wake up that we feel. We feel a lot. And that feeling is going to transform our lives. That feeling is going to transform a lot of what is going to happen and unfold in the remaining of the year, but also next year, because the ball is really in the divine's court. But I have to express, the divine is the anima within us. So it awakens within us. Of course, it's a trickster, Mercury, because Mercury is the energy which always hugs the sun like a needy child. Sun representing the light of Christ conscious, Kuan Yin. You get what I mean. Mercy, the passion of mercy. That's our star. That's the nature of our star. If you would be on another planet and would have your own planetary astrology, well, if you would look at the fixed star named Sun, well, for that astrology, it would be a portal of mercy. It would be a portal of unconditional love. It would be a portal of, yes, a negative expression, blind ideal that goes against survival instinct. But I kind of put the emphasis there. This will drive, first of all, the spirit to simply no longer fear survival, in the sense that survival will not matter. In a few years, whatever happens in spirit happens, really. So what happens when we are no longer afraid? When we no longer need the security of health care, and because we don't want it anymore. It's not worth it anymore. I don't know what happens, but we'll see. But this is what this particular Aries equinox is conjuring up deep within. How should I say? This goes on first. Where is the brain, if you wish, of Mother Earth, of our planet? The Earth's core. That's a quantum computer. That's really a quantum computer. And can do anything, any equation, first there, and then, it will shoot upwards, let's say. Because magma, well, the magma isn't that really water? Which, okay, it's fire and earth, but really water, but also air, but it can be programmed just like water. So you get what I mean. I know that I shouldn't be speaking about these things, but the time has come not to be silent in certain ways. So this Aries equinox is really gonna open us to a new personal dimension, new personal paradigm, and our own unique primordial nature, the primal within us. And by this I don't mean the id, the animal, beyond that, way beyond the seed of the divine. Because, I don't even know how to put this into context, because again, this is so controversial that I might offend big time. But the divine itself is a infinitely primal energy. It is not necessarily the expression of what the something presented itself to us as being the demiurge. So we will see the true expression of the divine within our own anima. It will fight through spirit, through emotion, through disbelief. Because, okay, no, I'm not allowed this. Mercury retrograde, right? So the Aries equinox is going to be big. But what also makes it big, well, Saturn is closing up on the North Node in the sign of Pisces. So this means that the dreams that we have for the self, well, we really need to mean it right now. We really need to make it happen, but through our own divine power. And I don't really mean ancient wisdom. No modus operandi that any guru could teach you. Simply just your brute, primal, inner anima that makes you want to breathe. That will hold the power, the wisdom, everything. So Saturn conjunct the North Node, that's where you need to somehow cooperate, collaborate, labor, Saturn labor, sacrifice in order to make your true dream come true. And your true dream is not susceptible to Mercury. That's why Mercury is retrograding back into Pisces to tell us that Mercury is a tool. We need to use it in the correct way because we're using it as a weapon, and it was never meant as a weapon to dissect the very fabric of creation, which is also an illusion, because if the divine snaps its finger, the Newtonian laws could disappear overnight. No, Triassic, right? So, this is going to be a very, very important part of all of our spiritual journeys, both individually and collectively alike, because Saturn is meaning business. And later on, towards June, July, Saturn and Neptune are going to, both of them together, dip into Aries. Neither Neptune loves it there, neither Saturn. But that's the best possible expression of this energy, because we don't need the love or comfort. We need the real deal. Saturn in the sign of Aries will tell us, well, there is more than one way to build, more than one way to fight, more than one way to give birth, more than one way to travel, more than one way to be free. It will show us its more unconventional sides, which is really, really, really good. Because, right, quantum age, quantum leap, well, even Saturn has to upgrade. We knew the Hellenistic version, we knew the medieval version, the rancid, bitter, sour, old man who only bestows punishment and cruel. Okay, then we know the Renaissance Saturn as well. Then we know the more modern Saturn, the daddy and stuff like that. Then we know the hyper-modern Saturn, the corporatist. But now it's time for us to know the new Saturn that we cannot even dream up. It has to present itself to us. And the same goes for all of the planets that are evolving along with us. If we are evolving, those planets are inner. So they have to evolve as well, right? So, yeah. But Mercury is not alone. This Mercury retrograde goes hand in hand with Venus. So mind and heart are really holding each other's hands and diving into this mysterious, unknown, divine whirlpool of Pisces, where they will emerge on the other side, but changed forever. And then they will start moving backwards to Aries once again, and somewhere around April, mid-April, something like it, until May it's done, so to speak. And I think it's time to get to the solar eclipse in the sign of Aries, because that is also going to be something, partial solar eclipse, that is going to be very, very relevant. Well, one of the particularity immediately is that it is in the other sign than the neighboring sign of the node. It's not in the same sign where the node is. This speaks of division. And this also speaks with there is spirit that is bestowed upon us, but there is spirit that we ourselves generate. So right now, time to work on what we generate spiritually. And, you know, rose-tinted stuff is not part of the game. Real love, yes, that is part of the real love is part of the game. But the fantasy of love is not part of the game. Like, yeah. So, another particularity that I find so amazing is that the eclipse, so the sun and moon together, always a very powerful new moon. And it's not even as karmic, heavily karmic, as the lunar eclipse that preceded it. This is more like karmic, but quantum, where it's a wild card. You're throwing the dice. All of us are throwing the dices. So it's also dharmic. Absolutely. I would so much love to believe that it's more dharmic. It's dharma. And it goes hand in hand with Salasha, dwarf planet Salasha, at 10 degrees of Neptune's wife. Neptune, at the moment of the eclipse, is at 29 degrees and 58 minutes of the sign of Pisces. So it only has its tail, or the backside, in Pisces. The rest of its body is in Aries. Of course, until it meets his wife, a few good years have to pass, because Neptune doesn't move all that very quickly. But still, of course, there is a lot of craze in the astrological world that the last time Neptune was in Aries in 1861 or something like that, this happened at revolution, civil, absolutely, but we didn't have Pluto back then. Back then, Neptune was the Pluto, if you know what I mean, not symbolistically and astrologically, but the gatekeeper. Now we have Pluto. So in Aquarius, the sign of, as I said, random, chances, chaos, quantum, we don't know. And what we can guarantee is it's definitely not going to be the same like that. Yeah, that means it can be even more dramatic, because Pluto is not Neptune in a bad sense as well. But Pluto is power. It can be very powerfully peace-oriented in a way that, when you cover a bird cage with a cloth, the bird goes to sleep because it thinks it's nighttime. Or I remember this clearly. There was the total solar eclipse in 1999, which was one of the most powerful in a very long time. And it was dark. And my grandma's hens and, chickens went to sleep for a few minutes. It was so funny. So that's it. That's a force of peace, especially if the cloth is not put on the caged by the rulers of the world, but rather the divine, the source of the world. That can create a certain peace. So Salasha. But Salasha with an eclipse is, well, how should I even this is so high level. There's Neptune, but anything's Hollywood's Neptune. There you go. Porn is Neptune. There you go. But Salasha is, if you will, the gentlest expression of the wife. You know, the husband, I don't know, cleans something a certain way where it will definitely have a few marks there. And when I say marks, as in he puts raw force there. The wife's gentle work is totally different. So this is why Salasha is gonna force us or call upon us to sensitize and filter the illusion. Illusion is a must. Illusion is simply in the very core of the human being. A human being is nothing without the illusion of itself, the illusion of the self. However, there is the artificial one, as in forced down our throats, but there is the real one. There is the natural one, and it is the natural one that we need to embrace, because through illusion, natural illusions, Mother Earth, divine, call it whatever you want, speaks to us literally. Again, I have to say an example. And this not just my grandma's village, everywhere in Europe, basically everywhere in the planet. Those and I don't even have to say mystics, just people, but who had a bit more willingness to help others. Let's say they didn't know how to read or write, but their divination form, they got it. I don't know, from beans or corn kernels or whatever they invent, bones, pea. This is real. Some people, especially my grandmother's generation, great grandmother's generation, they could predict stuff by simply peeing. How that worked, I don't know, because I wasn't initiated in those arts. But they just peed, and how the pee felt as it went through them, because they didn't have to look at it or something, just the feeling of it, it told them everything. Like literally everything. So the way nature and the elements and the divine communicates with basically everyone, not just human, geese. Geese travel continents. There you go. Our GPS is inferior to theirs. Their divination is beyond Nostradamus, beyond anyone, like really beyond us. And they didn't even know how to read and write. So doesn't that tell us that the mind, when it is a tool, it helps us? When it is a weapon, it just makes us build a prison for ourselves. The mind determines us to imprison ourselves in cities, in electricity, in society, in healthcare system, in whatever else, fearing things that aren't even real. Diseases that we create for ourselves and then we fear them. But anyway, what I want to say here is that this is a very powerful freedom-oriented energy. And Salasha is definitely going to activate the good type of illusion. Now, there are so very many other small power players that converse with this eclipse. One of them is Varuna from 9 degrees of Leo. Now, Varuna is a dwarf planet considered by modern astrologers the higher octave of Saturn, especially Dr. Alan Clay, and if you'd like to visit his website, it's really, really, really the real deal. Varuna is responsible uh, if Saturn is justice, and you know Saturn, the Saturnian principle. Well, Varuna does that on a uh, not just dimensional, multiverse scale. And of course, Varuna does not need restriction and limits and cruelty and lessons and reward, and it operates in a totally different way. Varuna, the way Varuna operates, I can even give an example. If the divine wants everyone to be happy, for us that's impossible. For Saturn, that's impossible. For Varuna, not. It can weave something. So it is the higher expression of justice, balance, harmony, fairness on a divine level than basically our own understanding of it. So it's the trine is a really, really good sign, because this says to me, well, no matter how doomy and gloomy things look like, the promise of real justice and compensation is there, and it will not gonna go anywhere. And if anything, Varuna wants us to join forces and make it real. We can make it real how? A hug, an embrace, a holding of hands, putting someone's head to your heart. That heals. That heals in such a powerful way that paracetamol doesn't. Oh, yes, of course, you have to make it, you have to really feel it, be it, and believing in it or not is futile, because it's instinct, the primal healer, the primal love. We lost it. Now we are remembering it. Sometimes the mother's kiss, that's not symbolic. It's not symbolic. It's not symbolic. It's not myth. It's not psychological. There is a magic in that, which is miraculous. Oh, we're ashamed of it. Of course, we're ashamed to help each other or be vulnerable, or yeah, I totally get that. But this eclipse reminds us of our real ancestral, but when I say ancestral, not the ancients and, ancient Sumeria, ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, ancient Rome, Aztecs, no, amateurs, way beyond them, way, Atlantis, Lemuria, amateurs. We're going back to the primal, to the very primal, Okay, not as far back when Gaia and Theia were separate, but still, Triassic, yes. A power to regenerate that defies all logic. But logic is not needed, because that's the divine right. That's really the divine right. You can just regenerate. But we need to, how should I say, understand this in a primal way in order to use it. But this is basically part of the deal. Now, there is another aspect which is exact, and I find it so interesting. There are planets, dwarf planets, blah, 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 but there are fictional energies as well. Uranian astrology, so to speak. Uh, and one of them is Cupid. I don't need to explain what Cupid is. Everyone knows what Cupid is, right? And it squares the new moon. What does this mean? Well, sometimes for love, sometimes for that fated love, Sometimes for that partnership which needs to keep you safe on a heart level for the rest of your life, extreme courage is needed psychologically. In a sense that a moment comes when I don't care what he or she will think. I am gonna just express my feeling, who I am, and my vision. As in, I see us living together, blah, 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 blah. And my love is real. And I know that you live a modern life and probably are not gonna be all that much acceptive of this, but this is the situation. Choose, do you accept or not? This is just an example. But this is Cupid, the arrow, the courage, the Capricorn. Capricorn is where, well, when it comes to that, all in. All in, definitely all in. And Capricorn is that sign where all ins very, very rarely fail. 99% success rate in anything. So Cupid is telling this eclipse new moon in matters of love, expressing Salasha, right? Salasha, all in. Don't care what she will think, all in, say it. Okay, Mercury and Venus are retrograde, so what is going to be said will need processing. However, Mercury is at 0 degrees of Aries. What did I say about the 0 degrees of Aries being the most important degree of the zodiac? Mercury, the mind is there, and it is conjunct Neptune and Venus, and indirectly the North Node. So yes, it is dharmic, but sometimes it needs a massive all-in leap of faith, courage, just to say something, just to drop your pride, just to expose yourself as what? A bit crazy, financially hopeless. You will never ever have good finances in your life. Or I don't know, your hippie tendencies, your whatever. But there comes a moment in life when all in. And this is just not just for single people, couples. Do you want to stay together? Yeah, well then mask off in front of each other. Let's not play cat and mouse or this and that. And this is also where the male and female element. The male element will always hold against the female that she is too needy, but at the same time never ever satisfied. The female will always hold against the male. You have no sense of empathy. You're a blind, stupid piece of rock in your heart. When the masks fall off and this pride goes away, Aries survival, the primal survival. Oh, none of that matters. That's just fun and ego. Then in a primal sense, the masculine and feminine are best mates. Oh, they're so very efficient together. Full understanding, full cooperation, no barrier between them. Well, even the Judo-Christian myth says that Eve was from Adam's rib, right? So, of course, they're one. They just live in the illusion of separation because they have slightly different roles that they themselves took upon themselves. But if spirituality is telling them that this was imposed upon them in its slavery, well, of course, no one's going to be happy. And everyone's going to be raging. And there's going to be succession. Patriarchy, matriarchy, patriarchy, matriarchy. But all of it is toxic. Neither is better than the other. Don't get me wrong. Maybe let's stop any archy and just be like bees. So this is what Cupid from the sign of Capricorn. However, Cupid, if we look at the chart, Just a moment. Oh, where is it? There it is. Well, the sign of Capricorn also has Ixion in it. And if we want to, I don't usually include aspects of trans-Neptunian objects which are greater than 1 degree, maybe 1.5 degree orb. But this time I have to include both Ixion, Quaoar, and Pholus as well. So it's Quaoar is the sacred dance. It is the sacred frequency, the sacred music within our soul. What does that mean? Give a Aboriginal person, of course, read and write is a must know. A drum, that's it. That person will enchant your heart immediately. That's Quaoar. Where the song, where the rhythm, where the magic comes from. That dimension. Okay, you might, from my soul, not, okay, your soul is just a portal. You didn't generate it. You're just an ambassador. It comes from the dimension, the realm of music and song, a sub-dimension of Morpheus, right? So this Ixion Quaoar Pholus points to the fact that there is going to be a massive, 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 massive revolution in the music artistic industry. But at the same time, it also points to the fact that Ixion, rebelling against law. This is when, if a constitution, if a very, very important legislation, law, even that Capricorn, which has great longevity, is no longer simple as that, liked, loved, Venus, by the people, bye-bye. That's it. And you will see the Samian symbols speak much more deeper about this. Another aspect that we have is, let me just put the screen back to normal. Another aspect that we have is a sextile with asteroid Hebe. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, from the sign of Aquarius. Now, I also really, really love this because, again, this points to the fact that the sacred feminine comes with nurture. It comes with, how should I say this? You know, where there are the most extremely deadly, dangerous animals, which are created to be ultra aggressive by nature. Mountain lion, black panther, grizzly bear, especially the female, etc., etc., etc. Sometimes there are glitches in nature where a mother's love overrides the predatory instinct. And you can Google this, look at documentaries, YouTube, whatever, of captured scenarios about this. Instead of eating, she just either leaves it alone or gives it a lick or some affection. And it should be pray for her. Or him, actually, her. Not him, sorry. Her. It should be pray for her. And it leaves the baby alone. Because somehow her own maternal instinct overrid her primal nature, the power of love. It holds a trine. Now, this is where it's very hard to pronounce for me. I have to say it with letters. Terpsichore. One of the 9 muses. Who is responsible for youthfulness? And she was the one who served nectar and all of that, Mount Olympus, to the gods. So she is a representative of the maiden, of love of life, but in the best and most, how should I say, innocent, but also elated way possible. The maiden, the happiness of being young, the frequency of youth and the joy of it. A trine. Leo the heart. Do I need to translate this? And this is an eclipse. So, who are plagued by the spirit of this youth? Gen Z. It's an eclipse. Sorry, time to get real and serious. But those who suffer, Dharma, right? Who could never ever feel this in their proper youth, maybe it's really good news for them. Because youth is in the soul, right? And the soul sometimes says, I cannot be young when you're a child because you have to raise your parents or your siblings, or but then comes the moment when your duty is done, and then your own dharmic force asks of you, allow the energies of youth to sit in your heart. So another thing that I want to mention is the Sabian symbol. A man teaching new forms for old symbols. Ancient wisdom revamped or redesigned. You know, you can see this in the gaming industry where old classic games that were basically the delight of our hearts are revamped. Everything is the same, just the look is a bit more modern and it can work in the modern computers as well. Basically, that's but all of spirituality. So this is when this starts a cycle, a massive new cycle, when no one can come and dish up ancient wisdom, ancient texts, scrolls, ancient philosophers, those who we worship and revere. Bye-bye. We are the new, the next. We don't need them. Why? Because the primal within us will create new and better. Our spirituality and wisdom can no longer be ancient. It has to be us. Truthful to who it is that we are right now. Another energy is that doesn't speak to the eclipse itself, but it is out there and it is powerful. Mars trine Saturn. Mars still struggling in its shadow path, going to that 6th degree of Leo where it started its retrograde from. But what I find really, really useful here is that this trine is going to get stronger because it's a waxing trine. So there is an element of support. May that be love, faith, inner support, or love of family, love of community. Something is there to support. And the same Mars will trine the North Node. So, and the same Mars, maybe not perfectly, will also trine Venus. And later on, when it enters Aries, Leo, when it goes back into Leo, the same Mars will trine Neptune, but from a totally different sign. Both of them. But the trine was an old trine, because before Mars went retrograde, it held the same trine with Neptune and Saturn as well. But that's for a future horoscope. And another thing is that Uranus, well, it sextiles Saturn. Do I need to interpret this? That's the best possible news. But it's not, if you look at my chart at the moment of this, look at these. Sun will sextile Jupiter. That means the moon will sextile Jupiter as well. Venus will sextile Uranus. Venus is the ruler of Taurus, where Uranus is. And of course, Mercury sextile Pluto, which means when Venus goes direct and exits Pisces, will also sextile Pluto. Sextile city. Sextile means dream, work, do it, be it. Don't give up. Push on. Use whatever resource you have. Put energy into it. For some people, of course, a sextile can mean stop doing something and keep to it. For example, this is also the theme of the previous eclipse, the lunar one. Detox, quitting this, quitting that. So be strong in that, of course. But whatever the sextile means for a person, so some people, they have to do more, others do less. Stop doing. So, but the sextiles are really, really good energies because they say that we have a word here, we have a choice, we have an option. If we put our spirit into it, things have to go our way too, because ultimately, in a nutshell, what does the eclipse and all of this year tell us? We are sovereign. The source, the creator, wants to listen only to us, but it can't because we're on the internet. The way to communicate with the source, you have to shut down your mind. Totally. Not in the sense take drugs and no. In a sense that no math, science, what your mom and dad taught you, let your mind just be a perception tool. You know nothing. Zero empirical knowledge or any knowledge. Even your own life experience doesn't matter anymore. So let Mercury rest and then tap into that primal state. And your sovereignty is going to manifest immediately. Because that's the only way to communicate with the divine. You can communicate through the Earth's core as an ambassador, of course, as a phone line, right? But you can also do it directly. Of course, that's your limit. You hold the limits to this, but you can. So if you take back the sovereignty of your spirit, things will definitely change and get real in a dharmic way. If we want to install peace, well, this is what we have to do. First of all, peace won't come through the internet. Peace won't come through fantasies. Peace comes through silence and summoning, calling upon the divine source here. Because if we call the divines, we are like pores of Mother Nature. Some treatments are pills, right? Other treatments are ointments or something that the pore of our skin has to absorb. If the pores are blocked, the treatment will not work. So we are the pores. When the Earth Mother herself needs her own spirit to be strengthened, let's call in unconditional, unrefined creation, the source. That is not a book, not someone's words, not symbols, not colors, not music, not a movie, not the Matrix, but something sacred within us. So thank you for listening. I am not sure when or what my next video is gonna be, because from now on I will only create if I find an astrological event very relevant, or there is something that, like a powerful lunation, powerful new moon, an equinox solstice, something that is really worthy to be mentioned and is not entertainment. It is not escapism. Because right now, rather than listening to horoscopes, we need to listen to the deep core of our heart of hearts. So thank you, everyone. Until next time, bye for now.